His Unwanted Mate. Chapter 1-3. Anya's point of view. It was another day again in the Dark Hound Pack. Birds were chirping and singing happily on the branches of large trees. I could see people across the street getting ready for work. I looked up and saw how radiant the sky was and smiled. "Luna, Alpha Marcus was calling for you. He said to go straight to your room," the helper living in the pack house said. I looked at her and spoke. "Okay. I'll follow you after I'm done with this." The helper bowed her head and went inside the house while I went back picking flowers. I glanced at the flowers in my hand and smelt them. It comforted me. I stayed for a minute in the garden when I decided to go back inside. When I entered the house, I quickly put the flower I picked on the vase. I went up to our bedroom, where Marcus is. I was about to open the door when it burst open, revealing Marcus' angry face. He grabbed my arm and harshly pulled me inside. I winced in pain. It will surely create a bruise later on, the way he held it. "Why are you late?" he angrily asked. I bowed my head before speaking. When he's like this, I couldn't help but be scared. "I just picked flowers in the garden. I'm sorry if you waited," I said and apologized. When I raised my head to look at him, I found him staring at me. He slightly pushed me into the bed, so I sat down. Marcus approached me and began kissing me. It was not a passionate one, but what would I do? If he wants it, I will gladly give everything to him. I put my arms around his neck while tears were falling down my eyes. Marcus pushed me once again until I lay down on my back. He started ripping my clothes off. After that, he started sucking my breast like a hungry beast. I couldn't sense tenderness nor love from his every touch. It's just lust that he needs to release on me. He kissed my jaw down to my neck and began sucking it. I can feel his hand began caressing my womanhood, and he played it with his fingers. I couldn't help but moan at the pleasure he's giving me. All of my thoughts suddenly flew away, and all I could think was him. He stood up and quickly removed his clothes. He kissed me once again and thrust himself in me. I closed my eyes in pain. He wasn't gentle the way I want him to be. He moved harder and faster. "Ah!" I moaned and clawed his back. I don't know where to turn my head as he keeps thrusting inside of me. I was panting heavily. Beads of sweat fell from my face as I can feel my insides burning with pleasure. Even the air conditioning in our room had no effect. "Shit!" he shouted. He kept moving, and the two of us were in sync. All you can hear inside our room was our moan. "Fuck this. You are mine, Anya," he said and cupped my face. I obediently nodded my head. I can feel that I'm already reaching my limit. Marcus rammed his manhood and cursed. I can feel his hot liquid flowing inside of me. Marcus lay down beside me while panting. He was also sweating profusely. I turned to my side and wiped the tears from my eyes. I am his when we were in bed, in this room. But he never looked at me and accepted that I am his mate. "Get out," he flatly said. This what he always says after we had sex. He's always telling me to go out of the room like nothing happened between us. Like we haven't shared our bodies intimately. I stood up even though my womanhood was still sore. I picked the clothes on the ground one by one. I looked at him and saw him staring at me. "Don't go anywhere and flirt with others because I need you later," he said and went to the bathroom. I slumped on the tiled floor and sobbed. I don't know why I still couldn't get used to his treatment of me. It broke my heart again and again. "Anya," my wolf worriedly said. "I'm okay. Don't worry about me," I replied quickly. I put on my ripped clothes and went to the room next to him. I lay down on my bed with haste and covered myself with a blanket. I began to cry again because it hurts so much. I just want him to love me. "Anya, please don't cry," my wolf sadly said, trying to comfort me. I didn't answer her and kept crying silently. Why can't I have my own happiness? He's a demon, a heartless one, but I still love him. I fixed myself when I heard the news from Marcus that Candace and Blake were coming. Candace was Marcus' sister and Blake's mate. He was also my previous alpha after transferring to the Dark Hound Pack. I picked a simple sleeveless dress and put light makeup on my face so they wouldn't notice my pale complexion. I glanced at my arm and saw the bruise. Candace might see it. I can't let her know, I said to myself and went to pick another dress. I found a baby blue long-sleeve dress and changed the dress I currently wore. After checking everything, I went out of the room. I was a bit taken aback by seeing Marcus waiting for me. "Why are you so slow?" he said, irritated. "Sorry," I said and bowed. Marcus went down while I was following him closely behind. I immediately saw Candace and Blake sitting on the couch. They didn't bring their twins with them. "Anya!" Candace shouted and hugged me. I hugged her back and smiled. She was an excellent Luna to the introverted me. And he was one of the people who didn't ignore me. And that made me glad. "You looked pretty. Does my brother takes good care of you?" Candace asked me. I glanced at where Marcus was sitting. I knew he heard what his sister had asked. "Of course," I answered. "That's good to know then. Let's go," she said and pulled me. I winced in pain when she touched the part where my bruise is. "Anya, are you alright?" Candace worriedly asked me. I pretended to fix my sleeve and smiled. "I'm fine. Where are we going, by the way?" I asked her. Marcus approached us and pulled my hand away from his sister. "I will just talk to her, Candace," he said. Candace pouted her lips and stomped her foot like a child. You wouldn't believe she already had twins because she sometimes acts childishly. "You are always with her, brother." "I missed Anya," she said. I saw Blake slowly walk towards her and hug her from behind. I really envied both of them. How I wished Marcus would be like that too. Caring and loving towards me. "Let them go, love," Blake said. Marcus gently dragged me away. And we entered the guest room. I tried wriggling my hand off of him. But he won't budge. "Marcus," I shouted. But he won't still let my hand go. He grabbed the sleeve of my dress and tore it apart. I gasped in surprise and looked at him with wide eyes. "You have a bruise," he quietly whispered, enough for me to hear. I looked into his eyes and saw regret. But it vanished instantly. I covered my bruise with my hand. I felt my heart beats faster as I waited for him to talk. "You deserve that," he said and walked away, leaving me with my shattered heart in the room. Anya's point of view. I woke up feeling the sun's light hit my face. I rubbed my bleary eyes and noticed that I was still in the same dress I wore yesterday. Sighing, I got up and went to the bathroom. I don't know what happened yesterday because Marcus ordered me to stay in his room. I'm sure Candace sulked because I'm not around. I know Marcus won't sleep in this room with me. He'll only call me if he needs to have sex. With his constant mood swings, he doesn't treat or see me as his mate. I touched my chest as I can feel it tightened. "Be strong, Anya," my wolf said. "I'm sorry for not talking to you yesterday," I said and apologized. Atella was important to me as she was with me since I was born. My wolf was my only companion when I felt alone in the pack. "It's okay," she said. A knock interrupted us. I went to the door and opened it. Seeing Lorraine. "Angeli. She's the mate of Marcus' new beta, Arnold. After Damien. His previous beta died." "Good morning, Luna. Alpha said that you should go to his office after eating your breakfast," Lorraine said with a smile. It was funny how his members thought of us like we were the perfect couple in this pack. But it was completely different. "Okay, Lorraine. I will come," I answered. She bowed her head. And I watched her went down. I closed the door and sat on the bed. What does he want from me? After bathing myself, I went to the kitchen and saw a plate with food placed neatly on the table. I sat down on the chair and began eating. Lorraine entered, carrying a box of fruit with her. She put it on the counter and started arranging it on the shelves. Where's your mate? Lorraine, I asked. Lorraine turned at me and smiled. Alpha Marcus asked him to do something. Luna, she replied politely. I envy Lorraine because she's always happy. Not like me, who was still hoping for Marcus' love every day. Lorraine, join me, I said and smiled. She did not follow me at first but eventually sat with me. She started talking about her life and her mate. Her eyes were shining brightly. My smile vanished. Mate's love really brings happiness. Lorraine stopped and looked at me worriedly. Are you okay, Luna? She asked. I nodded my head and drank the water on the bottle beside me. Lorraine excused herself while I went directly to where Marcus' office is located. When I was already in front of the door, I breathed deeply and knocked. Come in, I heard him said. Slowly, I pushed the door open. Did you call for me? I asked and gripped the hem of the shirt. I was standing in front of him while he was staring at me. Sit, he said. I sat on the chair. The only noise that can be heard inside was coming from his computer while he typed. Did I tell you to sit there? He said, irritated. I quickly stood up and looked around the room. Where does he think I will sit? On the ground. He stopped typing and looked at me. Sit here, he said and pointed his lap. I could feel my cheeks reddened. Huh? I asked. Dumbfounded. He wants me to sit on his lap. The Marcus Kingsley ordered that. What did he eat? I said. Sit on my lap. He angrily said. I hurriedly went to him and sat on his lap. My heart is beating faster. I couldn't explain what I'm feeling right now. I'm beyond happy. Look at me, he commanded. I looked at him. Although I was shy of meeting his eyes, he cupped my face, and his gaze went to my lips. He leaned and claimed my lips. His kiss was so aggressive, but I kissed him back with the same intensity. I could feel his hand roaming around my body. He put his hand inside my shirt and started massaging my breast. His kisses went from my jaw down to my neck. I couldn't help but moan when he unclasped my brassiere. A sudden knock on the door made us move away from each other. Blushing, I bowed my head and got up. I heard Marcus cursed. He waited for me to fix myself before letting the person in. What is it, Arnold? He said. Sounded pissed. Arnold's forehead creased. He glanced at my side and smiled a little. I shyly smiled back while fanning myself. I have to report something. Alpha. We've found the rogues' hideout and our intel said he saw Damien among the rogues. Arnold said. I peeked at Marcus and saw him clenched his hand into a fist. Damien was a traitor and was declared dead after we couldn't find his body while he was trying to kill Candace. He was bent on avenging his mate that Blake killed when she attacked him years ago. Veronica was banished from her father's pack and the entire North after being found guilty of being Damien's accomplice. Her own wicked love for Blake resulted in her banishment. Prepare to attack. Arnold. Tell the other warriors to get ready. He said. I need to see for myself if it's true. He added. I flinched and backed away, seeing how mad he was. Yes, Alpha. Arnold replied and bowed his head. He went out of the office, leaving us inside with a heavy atmosphere still lingers in the air. I gritted my teeth and approached him slowly. Marcus. I stuttered while calling his name. I was about to touch his shoulder, but he scowled at me. Don't fucking touch me, he shouted angrily. I could feel thousands of needs prickling my heart. He's mad again. I tried controlling my tears, but I failed. Marcus. Leave. Anya. He sternly said. I nodded my head and hurriedly left his room. I bumped into Lorraine outside. Are you okay, Luna? She worriedly asked me and held my arm. I forced a smile and nodded. I quickly excused myself and went to my room. Why do I always wish for Marcus to change? I smiled bitterly. Because I love him. That's why I am still hoping for him to change. that someday he will treat me with care, kindness, and love because I am his mate. Anya's point of view. I suddenly woke up hearing the alarm ring. Why did I dream of the first time I met Marcus? I remember it was a sunny day. I went to Blue Moon Pack House, clasping my book to my chest while sauntering around the street. Attila was acting strange that day. I remember preparing food for Candace and Blake and decided to run. I was alone in the forest, enjoying the wine brushing in my skin. Then the smell of chocolate with a touch of cinnamon filled my nose. When I opened my eyes, a gray wolf with a beautiful pair of blue eyes was in front of me, looking at me intently. It was the day I found my mate, my other half and my destined lifetime partner, Marcus Cepheus Kingsley. I heaved a sigh and got up. I picked the towel and went inside the bathroom. Good morning, Anya. Attila Wolf greeted me. Morning, I replied while yawning. I got into the shower and turned the dial on. I let the warm water fall on my body and closed my eyes. It was another day for me to hope for our relationship to get better. After showering, I went out and picked denim shorts and an oversized shirt. I was planning on picking the flowers in the garden later. I got down and walked towards the kitchen when I heard loud crashing sounds. I felt my nervousness rose and hurriedly went inside. Fucking hell! Marcus angrily cursed. The first question I wanted to ask was, what happened? But I'm too scared to speak up. Knowing he was raging in anger, I glanced around and saw Arnold. I breathed a sigh of relief and spoke. What happened? I worriedly asked. I don't know, but I felt like it had something to do with their operation yesterday. The rogues that Arnold was talking about. I didn't get a reply, and Marcus kept throwing the plates and glasses on the wall. What happened, Arnold? I asked him once again. He was the only one who could answer my question right now. I badly wanted to know what's happening. Marcus may not treat me as his mate, but it was my right to know the current situation as the pack's unofficial Luna. The rogues suddenly knew we were going to attack their base, and they escaped, Arnold said. When I looked at Marcus, he had a dark expression on his face like he wanted to kill someone. It's impossible in the first place because only the warriors of our pack knew the raid. And before leaving, the intel told us that they were still on their base and they weren't planning on leaving anytime soon, Arnold said with a creased forehead. Marcus. I called his name and walked to him slowly. I held his hand and squeezed it. Mates have a bond, and it could help them by soothing their anger. But for us who haven't mated yet, it was weak. Yet it worked. How did the rogues know that we were going to attack? Call the allied pack, Arnold. Marcus ordered. Tell Joseph of the Silver Moon Pack that I need their help. There might be someone behind this, and Damien may be the key. Investigate the inside. I want him or her dead, he added. I know Marcus won't tell his sister about Damien as long as he doesn't have the proof. It was for Candace's safety. Arnold nodded his head and excused himself. If I heard him right, there might be a snitch left on the pack. Marcus looked at me and what he said surprised me. I want you now. Anya, he huskily said and pulled by my waist. I couldn't believe he wanted to do it again. But I admit that he sounds so damn sexy while calling my name. I gulped and closed my eyes when I saw him lean forward. I waited for his kiss. And it happened. For the first time. He wasn't in a hurry. It was deep and needy. I wrapped my arms around his neck. Ahem. I opened my eyes and saw Arnold standing on the door while scratching the back of his neck. Marcus glared at him. What? He asked. Irritated. Alpha Joseph said he would go here tomorrow, Arnold said. Marcus' only response was the nodding of his head. We went out of the kitchen, dragging me back upstairs where his room was located. We got inside, and he locked the door behind him. Now they won't disturb us here again, he seriously said and kissed me again. My eyes widened when he carried me to his bed. He took off his clothes and began showering my face with little kisses. I don't know what to do or to think anymore. He's good to me 1 minute. And then he will suddenly change and ignore my existence as his mate. Am I selfish for wanting his love so bad? You are mine. Anya. Mine alone. He whispered in my ear while he was tracing my body with his fingers. I don't know what to feel. His words brought both pains and hope to me. What am I really to you, Marcus? Those were the words I longed to ask him. But instead of speaking, I closed my eyes again, embracing the warmth he was giving me. As much as I can, I decided to put all my love into him until the day I couldn't love him anymore. Thanks for listening to the Brava Novel audiobook. Welcome to download the Brava Novel app. Read the novel His Unwanted Mate online and get the latest updates.